We are very honored, as I mentioned before, to welcome His Excellency Jesoni Vitusagavulu, or Vitu as he is commonly known. He began his duties as ambassador in October 2005 before joining the Foreign Service. He worked in the private sector as a managing director of top-tier management consultancy, an investment management consultancy firm that he founded in 2003, during that time also he was lecturing at the University of South Pacific at its MBA program. Previously, he was the chief executive of the Fiji Trade and Investment Bureau and has held senior management positions in Air Pacific, Fiji Development Bank, Unit Trust of Fiji, the Suva Stock Exchange, and Fijian Property Trust. He was also a trustee of the Fijians Trust Fund, a member of the Prime Minister's Think Tank Advisory Group, director of Kaduvu Development Company, as well as chairman of Food Processors Limited and the Agricultural Marketing Authority. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in Economics and Politics from the University of the South Pacific, an MPhil in Development Studies from the University of Sussex, a diploma in Airline Management from the University of Bar Ilan in Israel, and a graduate certificate in Management from the Australian Graduate School of Management at the University of South Wales. He and his wife, Selina, are the parents of 3 daughters, and I understand he's here visiting with the Trade Commissioner and his first secretary from Washington, D.C. We are very pleased, and please join me in welcoming His Excellency here to campus this afternoon.
Thank you very much for those kind words of introduction. It is my pleasure to be speaking to you this afternoon. I don't know whether you call it a lecture or just a talk, because this has been like sprung on me. And I know Internet these days does wonderful things. I once read in the Washington Post that some people are doing their assignments through the Internet, like they just offshore their homework, like while they're sleeping, someone in India is doing it, you know. So I thought I might try that with my speech this afternoon, because it was told to me last night that I have to address you people. So I did that, and all I got was just go impromptu. It was anyway, so I'm going to go impromptu, and I wish my friends could help me, because I've been doing all the talking in our journey. We've been doing this, going from centers to centers. We started at Sacramento, went to Modesto, San Francisco City, LA, and Seattle before coming here. And I think I must have spoken about 10 times already, virtually the same subject, you know, and I wish my friends could help me out, you know, and they've been hearing me, which reminds me of a story about this professor, you know. He was speaking on a really difficult subject, like maybe fission in the atom, and it was very topical. And then he was speaking about 32 times, going from state to state. And one night, when he was to speak the 33rd time, he told his driver, "I've got a problem." "What's the problem, Prof?" "I can't speak tonight because I'm not well." The driver, without missing a beat, says, "Don't worry, Prof, I'll speak." "What? You'll speak?" "Yeah. I've heard you 32 times, and I've just memorized everything you say. You just come along in case they ask the difficult questions." So that was the deal, you know. So the driver stands up and masquerades as a professor, and he spoke. He did a marvelous job, because after that he had a standing ovation. And then the questions started coming. And guess what? He was able to answer all the questions. Why? Same questions he's heard all over the 32 places the professor had spoken. And then came the really curly one. And then he goes, "Ma'am, the answer to your question is so simple, I'm going to ask my driver to answer it." I wish my friends could do that to me. But anyway, I'm happy to do an impromptu presentation to you this afternoon. And I've decided to speak about the Fiji economy as a typical example of a small island economy trying to make it in a changing international environment. And I also want to talk to you about some of the things that we're doing at the embassy in order to help out in the situation. So for some of you who do not know, let me give you a bit about the Fiji economy. Fiji is a very small island economy. There are about 300 islands in Fiji. I was joking at lunchtime, there are 300 islands at high tide and 320 islands at low tide. But anyway, we have 300 islands, and only of which about 120, 130 are inhabited. The population is only about 800,000, so it's not a big economy. I mean, it's very small. Compared to other island economies in the Pacific, it's relatively large. Papua New Guinea is the largest island economy in the Pacific with about 5 million population, and I don't know the other facts about it. But in terms of population, you got Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and the rest, Solomons, Vanuatu, etc., Tonga, and Samoa way down. But anyway, such is the nature of the small island economies that we have in Fiji. And you can imagine how reliant we are on export if we are to develop, And in the years we have been, our export strategy has been based on trade preferences, And we've had some good friends like Australia and New Zealand. They allow us trade access into the economies under preferential terms like no duty. And also our sugar we've been exporting to the UK for a long, long time. And when the UK joined the European Union, it continued to go to the European Union under their preferential terms. So the economy has been growing well. I mean, there's been a major shift of the economy from one that is predominant, where you have the public sector as being the predominant actor, to now where the private sector is playing a more leading role. In fact, that's the characteristics of many island economies. I don't know whether any Tongans here or Samoans, they can attest to that the public sector is very prominent. And I think part of the problem is because the private sector is not very vibrant. There are not enough people who've got entrepreneurial skills or well-educated who can run businesses. So as a result, we find government in its quest to grow the economy, they are the ones that are taking a leading role. And I think to a large extent it's been influenced also by monetary policies or monetary theories like the Keynesian theories, where it says, government needs to play a more active role in the economy in order to stimulate it. But anyway, be that as it may, we have come to the realization when government drives the economy, it doesn't do a pretty good job. And what we're doing is changing our emphasis, carrying out public sector reform to allow more private sector activity in the economy, for we now believe that the private sector is the engine for growth. So because of the structure of the economy, the Fiji economy has been growing somewhat slowly. Last year it managed a growth rate of only 1.8%. That's well below the government target rate of 5%, because government believes it needs to grow the economy a lot higher than it is currently doing because of the many problems that we face. And so the problems that we face includes very high unemployment and also very high poverty level. Now, that might strike you as odd. Like your impression of Fiji and the Pacific Islands, this idyllic location where everybody sits under a coconut tree and strums their ukulele and life is just ideal, In fact, I told a story the other night of this guy who was sitting under a coconut tree and looking out in the turquoise blue water, half sleeping, half dreaming. And then a tourist comes along and says, "Hey, lad, you must be 14. Why aren't you at school?" He said, "Yeah, I'm 14. Why should I go to school?" And the tourist gives him a lecture on the goodness of getting good education. Well, you go to school in order to get a good education. And the lad says, "And then what?" "Okay, with a good education, you can get a good job. And then what?" "With a good job, you can earn lots of money. And then what?" "Okay, with lots of money, you can buy a lot of good things like house, car, etc. And then what?" The guy was running out of answers and says, "Well, to have a good life." And the guy says, "What do you think I'm doing?" But, some people have that impression of the Pacific as being idyllic location. But I tell you that in Fiji, the poverty level is about 30%. 30% of our people live below poverty line. In case you're wondering what's the poverty mark, it's earning $1 a day. If you earn less than that, then you are below the poverty line. So that's why the government is dedicated to growing the economy, because we have these major challenges, particularly by way of high unemployment and also high poverty level. And in case you're wondering who is unemployed, well, I can tell you, we have 17,000 people coming out of high school every year, finishing their schooling, and of those 17,000, only 7,000 are able to get a job. So you've got this problem which is already there and compounds every year unless government does something in a hurry in order to correct this situation. So because of those challenges, government has been dedicated in its policies to really grow the economy. And this is where missions like us come in. Missions like us, unlike in the past where we, attend a lot of cocktail rounds and so on, just, like building the political relationship, now there's a decided shift to nurturing and growing the economic relations that we have between the different countries that we have posted. And Washington is accredited to U.S. as well as Canada and Mexico. And you're looking at one of the two largest economies in the world. Well, the U.S. is the largest economy, and Canada may be the fifth or the fourth largest economy in the world. So we are responsible for quite, two big economies, and we need to be evolving strategies in order to harvest the benefits that can flow to Fiji by being related to these two countries. Now, we took over our position. I took over my post in August last year, and my friend, Mr. Penny Loma Loma, he took over his position in January this year. So it's early days yet for us, but one thing is clear that we noticed when coming into this market, that our export to the U.S. has drastically fallen. It dropped by 20% last year. And the drop was our export in 2004 was 235 million. Last year it dropped to 175 million. So we've got a gap there of about 50 to 60 million that we are thinking, that we should be trying to plug. And you might be wondering, what has happened, Ambassador? Well, I tell you what has happened, and this will tell you some of the ways small island economies or any third world countries being affected by the new international trading environment. Because the thing that's dropped significantly to this market is our export of garments, or apparels, as I think you call it. We have been exporting a lot of apparels to this market under a quota system that the U.S. have with many third world countries, including China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and so on. And Fiji was included, and our quota was something like 1.25 million dozen of units of garments. So in 2004, as a result of pressures from the world, WTO, it has been lifted. So when it is lifted, that means it's free for all. It's a level playing field, and everybody has to compete on their competitiveness. And so when you're competing with China, you can't compete with China. China pays 50 cents a day, and we pay 50 cents an hour in Fiji. We can't drop our wage rate to 50 cents a day, otherwise poverty problem would worsen. So that's the challenge that we face. When you flatten the world as the world trading environment is dictating, the small island economies like us cannot compete. How can we compete with giants like China? But anyway, it is for that reason that our garment export to this market has drastically fallen. I know the U.S. is a little bit concerned because it's just inundated with stuff coming in from China. Says, whoa, 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 they've reintroduced some quota so that it's phased in over a period of time. But that's the main explanation for the drop of our export to this market. Garment export dropped by about 90% last year. So you can imagine how tough it is for us to be trying to continue to grow in a world trading environment. Some of our other exports have been increasing well. The first one is fish. We also export fish to this market, be it fresh fish or tuna loins that we send to Bumblebee here in San Diego, which I think most of the tuna you eat this side of the country comes from Fiji, which is wonderful. The other thing that we export to this market is Fiji water, and I'm sure all of you know about Fiji water. And not like this lady. I sat opposite a lady from the State Department over a lunch at the New Zealand ambassador's residence, and she was saying, Ambassador, what does Fiji export to this market? Well, there's things like fish and Fiji water. Oh, Fiji water? What's that? As if she didn't know anything. Whoa, this lady doesn't know about Fiji water. Anyway, Fiji water is, it's an export from Fiji. Some people think it's just a brand. No, it's real stuff from Fiji. But anyway, she says, what's so special about Fiji water that is, that's really gaining market share here? I said, well, many benefits. I suppose the principal one, maybe as far as you're concerned, it's got high silica content. Oh, what's that? Silica arrests aging. And she says, whoa, I must have a lot of that, this lady. So the next day, anyway, I sent her a little bottle, and I said, here, taste Fiji. And she sends me an email and says, I've just downed the Fiji water, and I already feel young. Wonderful, right? Anyway, so Fiji water is another product that we export to this market. Last year it grew well by 80%, but it's starting from a small base, low base, 40 million to 53 million. We also export to this market mahogany. We also export to this market coral, live coral. I know there's big environmental opposition to it, but we have a lot of corals in Fiji that we can afford to send some this way. Also, we export taro, which is eaten by Pacific Islanders. That's why they're big. And so if you want to be big and play rugby, eat dalo and cassava. But anyway, those are other exports that we export to this market. So the strategy that we are trying to work on to plug that gap is to see how we can increase those other exports that we're exporting to this market. As we look at that strategy, we're encouraged by the performance of like Fiji water. I mean, Fiji water, for those of you into marketing, you should study the marketing success of this little brand of water. I mean, water is a dime a dozen in this country, isn't it? But Fiji water has achieved prominence such that it is the second most popular imported water besides Evian. Look at the way it has just certainly catapulted into prominence starting in 1997. 1997 it started, and today is the second most popular imported water. What that product is telling us is you really don't need trade preferences to score in this market. I mean, not only that product, but also Pure Fiji. Some of you ladies would really like Pure Fiji products. It's a thing for your face, beauty treatment, that the base is virgin coconut from Fiji, right? And so it's so successful that it's used as prize for the Academy Awards that you've had, and this unique product. But anyway, not only that, we also export to this market Pacific Green Furnitures, which is made from palm wood, coconut, yeah. So in other words, coconut is a tree of life in Fiji. We use everything about the coconut. We use the leaves to thatch our roofs for shelter. We use the milk, of course, to drink, the coconut cream to cook with, and the trunk for medicine and what have you. Now, when they grow old, this is the old coconut that we're using. When they are 70 years old, we call them senile coconuts. That's when we chop them down and convert it into furnitures. Very, very nice furnitures, really gaining a position here. In Washington, a very discerning market, as you know, we have 2 outlets there. We're doing very well, and the owner wants to expand to New York and also Florida and Atlanta. So anyway, those products, my point is this, and I think it's an encouragement to Pacific Island countries who might be scratching their head and said, how can we ever survive in the new international trading environment, where, like Fiji, we are handicapped by distance, the tyranny of distance, exporting products all the way here. But to me, those products are telling us that we can still score in this market if we do a good job about branding, about marketing our produce well. This, to me, is the key for this. I mean, when it comes to exporting commodity, we'll be slaughtered by Costa Rica, where cassava comes from. We'll be slaughtered by China when it comes to garments, so many other things, when we are in commodities. I remember talking to Fiji Water, the marketing guru there. His name is Doug Coulson. He said, Vitu, what Fiji must do, which is what Fiji Water has done, is to decommoditize its exports. Don't be involved in export of commodities, because everybody is into commodities. And you will be slaughtered if you go into commodities, given your weight structure and your distance from the main market. So you need to go niche with your product, emphasis on marketing, emphasize niche products and such things as organic products, for example. Just don't export the ordinary. You have to do the extraordinary thing if you have to score in this market. So these are the things that encourages us, that, that doesn't faze us, because sometimes we're thinking, how can we go back to the State Department and say, you know what, because of what you've done, you've lifted the quota. China is slaughtering us. Like the garment industry, which used to employ 20,000 people, is now shrunk to less than 10,000. Can you reinstate those quota? We tried, but the response is, you've had the right since 91. You should have adjusted to the changing, international environment. We can't extend that assistance. So I think what the small island economies need to come to terms with, that the days of preferences are gone. And we really need to re-strategize on how to survive in this new international economic order insofar as trading environment is concerned. And to me, these products, Fiji water, Pacific green furnitures, and pure Fiji products tell us that we can still survive with careful marketing, niche marketing, and packaging our product in such a way that it can command the high price that we're looking at. But I tell you what, as the more we look at it, the more we realize that even if we do a clever thing about our marketing, we will always be constrained by the tyranny of distance that we face. I mean, it costs, we can package like Fiji water, great stuff, and somebody can copy us and do it somewhere in China or wherever, and export also to this market. And we will be handicapped because our freight rates are higher than China, higher than Costa Rica, and other places where water, our rival product, can come from. The other day we had a discussion with someone who imports dalo to this market, and they said, Vitu, we could do more dalo to this market if only the freight rate was lower. What do you mean lower? Well, out of Costa Rica, a 40-foot container costs $2,000, whereas from Fiji, a 20-foot container costs $4,000. So freight rate is quite high from Fiji compared to others. This is manifestation of the tyranny of distance. And I really think what Fiji needs to be thinking is, what export or what can we import from Fiji that is not affected by the tyranny of distance? And this is where I believe our future lies in ICT industries. Because at a press of a button, it doesn't matter whether you're in Timbuktu or you're wherever. I mean, it just goes. It does not know the distance. And so this is where a lot of our emphasis is going into. I mean, we're encouraged by the example that India is showing us. You know, over there, ICT industry, call center, data processing, software programming. It's an industry that's grown phenomenally since 1991 and now employs 1 million people. You know, and so what Fiji has got in its favor for the development of these industries, we've got fiber optic cable that links Fiji to the U.S. and Australia and New Zealand through a cutting-edge technology, that platform. That's what you need if you are to establish call centers and ICT industries. And also, the thing that is in Fiji's favor is we've got good English-speaking population, and I think our accent is not too strong compared to India, such that we will be easily understandable by the Americans, as I hope I am coming across to you. Yeah, and also something that is in our favor is low cost of our wages. I mean, low cost workers. Like I expect you could do 350 US a month in Fiji. In India, because the industry is so vibrant, there is high incidence of attrition because they go from company to company, and each time the wage rate is going up. So you'd struggle, I think, in India to do something like 450 US a month. So this is where Fiji can come in. And then another thing that I understand that is working in Fiji's favor is political stability, political stability that we enjoy in Fiji. But there's one thing that is not working in Fiji's favor, which I'm sure you might be interested to know. It's the high telecommunication cost. Fiji has got a high telecommunication cost, and the explanation given to us by the telecom providers is we've got small plants. You can't enjoy the scale economies like you can do in India and Pakistan, South Africa, where the call centers are located. But it's something that we need to work on, and I really think that the way Fiji should approach telecommunication, it should be looked upon as an enabling environment and not a profit center. But I tell you why. Because government, again, I told you earlier how government has played a very key role in the economy in order to, boost it along. It owns 50% of the shares in Fintel, which is the one that provides international telecommunication, company that provides international telecommunication. And over the years, it's been getting very good dividend from Fintel, and it shores up its budget or helps finance its budget. But so I think it's very reluctant to do too much about pricing because it will reduce the dividend that it's getting from Fintel. But the thing is, to me, that's a very short-sighted view. Just imagine, on our way here, before coming here, rather in the morning, we had a discussion with ACS, which is based out of Texas, but they've got a branch here. ACS is Affiliated Computer Services, a large company listed on the stock exchange in New York and got 5 billion turnover, 55,000 employees. Anyway, they've got a plant in Fiji. They've got a call center, rather a data processing center in Fiji. They only employ 180 people. And so the purpose of our meeting with them was to ask how can they expand their operation in Fiji. They said, one thing, if you bring down telco cost, you've got the formula for us to expand our operation there. And they were giving us comparison, like a T1 line in Fiji was $18,000 a month, and in the Philippines, for example, $3,000 a month. So it's really out of whack what we have in Fiji in terms of telecommunication cost. So to us, if we're going to push hard on this front, that's something government should do in order to bring down telecommunication cost. So to me, the future of Fiji lies in promoting ICT industries. And so we're pushing hard on that front, and we're gaining some success there. We're working with a company that's looking to set up an 800-seat call center in Fiji, targeting Fortune 500 companies. This is the same company that helped start up call centers in India, or they're called First Ring, as well as HealthScribe. They do medical transcription. So they want to replicate that experience in Fiji, because what they're saying is this is a 100 billion job waiting to happen. The amount of outsourcing and offshoring that should happen in the U.S. It represents inefficiency in this country, which over time must happen. Economic compulsion, dictates that happens. So right now, about 30% or 30 million of that is done out of India. But the Fortune 500 companies, they are feeling somewhat worried that 70% of the work is done out of one country. So they want to mitigate location risk by setting up call centers in other countries so that they are not too exposed in one country. So what Fiji needs to do is position itself to get a slice of this action. And that's what we are working hard with government to ensure that we have in place, like making sure that the telco cost is right. So to me, ICT industry is the way for us to move. And also one other industry, a new and exciting industry that we're working on, is the audiovisual industry. We're trying to encourage movie production in Fiji. We've got what we regard is a first world-class financial incentive framework, which is modeled along. We looked all over the world and see the best part of the financial incentives in countries, put them together in Fiji, and now promoting it. You've heard of Anaconda? Yeah, Anaconda 1 was done, I think, in Congo somewhere, but Anaconda 2 was done in Fiji. This is part of the movies that we're attracting to Fiji under this promotional effort to attract movie industry in Fiji. Because movie industry is big, movie production, that is, in New Zealand, where they produce, what was that movie? Lord of the Rings, yeah. And in Australia as well. So we're just learning from them. Hey, we've got a lot of things going for us in Fiji. Like we've had some movies come to us without any attraction on our part, like Castaway, featuring Tom Hanks. That was done in Fiji. Blue Lagoons, Brooke Shield, remember when she was a little girl? All those stuff were done out of Fiji. So that's another industry that we're trying to attract, also trying to attract more tourism industry. Tourism is our largest industry right now, and we want to build more hotels. There are at least 7 hotels that are happening on the ground right now, and we want to encourage more. So these are the sort of work that we're doing. I know we're pushed for time. I wanted to allow some questions, so maybe I should just stop here and respond specifically to any questions that you might have. So, please. Yes, sir.
Ambassador, what role do you think entrepreneurship and small business plays in Fiji's future?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, it plays a very important role. This is what government has recognized firmly. In the past, it has tended to rely on public sector driving the economy. Now it believes the private sector, not only the big companies that have started hotel industry in Fiji, but even small companies, also encouraging small companies to start up. In fact, Jesoni here is our trade commissioner. He got appointed also in January. He used to work for the small and business enterprise unit in Fiji. Maybe you could respond to that a little bit. Why don't you stand up?
Anyway, government has recognized a need to develop small business at grassroots level, particularly in the rural areas. It feels that there's so much resources available. Perhaps Fiji could look at developing natural resources and taking advantage of the unused land, things like land, to develop small and micro enterprise. So it says, and with that, government established 3 years ago a Center for Small and Micro Enterprise. That shows the emphasis that government has placed on small business. So with that comes microfinancing and also small business training. And we have a program, a long-term program into introducing and developing small business, especially in the rural areas.
I knew my drive would come in handy. Sorry. Any other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Did you need to use the microphone? I just had a question regarding the poverty level. I know that we talk about you talked about so many, like a large percent of Fiji's population live below the poverty rate, and I know that that's something that's set at an international standard. But when you look at the lifestyle in Fiji, like in the United States, someone that lives below the poverty level, it's going to be it's going to have a larger implication on their life than per se someone in Fiji. You get someone in Suva who relies on a paid job so they can go to the market, they can get their food, versus someone that lives 20 miles outside of Suva. That's like a completely different world. So I was wondering how you guys target that, because Fiji has a challenge because it's so regionalized. You've got people that live up in the highlands that are living a completely different lifestyle than someone that lives versus in Suva or Nandi. And I've noticed when people, you got people they're immigrating into the cities and there's a condensed population there, but what kind of challenges that present Fiji's, the people in the government? How do you look at the villages and what's happening there? I'm just curious to know.
Sure. I think you're right that the incidence of poverty is more prevalent in the urban areas where you do not, unlike in rural areas where you can live subsistently. I mean, you can go and plant a plantation, go out and fish and what have you. But the incidence of poverty is more prevalent in the urban areas. And you've been to Fiji, right? And you would have seen, have you? Yeah, right. And you would have seen some squatter settlements that we have, and they are manifestation of this problem of poverty that we have. Now, your other part of the question was what government is doing about it.
Yeah, because in the villages, like the lifestyle is changing so rapidly, and I'm interested in what's happening kind of with the indigenous culture, because you set up these ICT centers, and what's that going to do? And I know it's a challenge. Like all of these big economies are facing the same question.
Yeah.
Because you've got an evaporation of culture as people central their location in these urban centers.
Yeah, there's always that challenge of what these new industries will do to the culture of people of Fiji, people of Pacific generally. But when you talk about tackling unemployment in the urban area, it's people already there that you're catering to. Okay, it might pull some of the guys who are in the rural areas right now, but I think it would put to work more the people who have already come to the urban area, who have been attracted by the bright lights and urban drift that results from it. And so I expect that the people who will be employed by these call centers will be people already in the urban area. But one thing that the government is trying to do also is to try and encourage people to return to the villages, because life there, the quality of life, you might not have the modern things that you have in the cities and the movies or what have you, but life there is a lot more better than in the cities, especially if you're living as a squatter and so on. So people like us try and encourage our relatives, go back. Schooling there is a lot better and all these things. So government is a multifarious approach in trying to assist with the problem, and one of it is to attract labor-intensive industries like call centers. More questions? Yes.
Okay, Ambassador, looking back at the things that happened in 87 and in 2001 about the coup, what do you think where Fiji would be if there were no coup during those 2 years? Do you think Fiji will be somewhere on top right now?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the coups, we've had 3 coups in Fiji. For those of you who don't know, in 87, we had 2 coups in 87 and another coup in 2000. And these political upheavals set us back terribly, and we're still recovering from the effects. One thing that I really admire about our economy, its ability to withstand shocks like that. I mean, we've had those coups in 87 when the economy shrunk by about 8%. I mean, that's not too bad considering, the magnitude of what happened in that year. We had the devaluation of about 33%. And in 2000, we had that coup again, but the economy only shrunk by about 3%, which goes to show that our economy is displaying considerable resilience to the sort of shocks that it is facing, which is good, speaks well of our economy's ability to withstand shocks. But that's not to say that we would be somewhere better if not for the events that we've had, without doubt. One of the things that has resulted from the coup is the considerable loss in skills, and skills is what you need in order to develop the economy. And we're finding it very hard to promote certain industries because of the loss of skills that these political problems have created.
Yes, and just to add on to that, also the like you said, what we call political reforms at that time, 1987, the year 2000, what we experienced was missed opportunities in terms of economic development. Fiji has so limited economic development alternatives. So when you have investors trying to come in, when we have new industries just beginning to build up or wanting to build up, these events does take away those opportunities.
And he's right. There's a company called NPC, National Processing Corporation. They were to set up a call center in Fiji. And the day they were setting up, that was May the 14th when this event, May the 19th? When was the coup? I've forgotten. May 19th, yeah. The 2001, 19th. That happened. And those guys just disappeared in the horizon. And fortunately, ACS has come back, If not for the political stability that we regained quickly, we would have said goodbye to this very important industry. Yes, sir.
This is not an industry. I think it's probably something new, but what role does remittance play in the Fiji's economy at the present?
Very good. Remittance is money that people from Fiji working abroad send to Fiji. It's been growing significantly because the increasing number of people who now Fiji who live abroad. Like we have a sizable number here in the States. I don't know, maybe 10,000 people. This is indigenous Fijians. Then Indo-Fijians, maybe another 20 or 30,000. And then we have in Canada, we also have about 3,000 Fiji people join the British Army, and also they've gone there with their families, also working there. And Fiji have been big in peacekeeping forces. We have peacekeeping force all over the world. And we have about 450 in Sinai and another similar amount, maybe 250 in Iraq with the UN. And we have some people providing security. They're based out of Kuwait, etc. So, and we have sports people, like play rugby all over the world. All of these people send money back home. That it is now, last year it was 350 million that we got from remittances. And it's now the second largest source of earnings for Fiji, foreign exchange earnings for Fiji. I remember before coming, I had a meeting with the governor of the Reserve Bank, and I was telling him, you'll be happy with the level of remittances coming from the U.S. And he says, yeah, I'm happy, but what I'm concerned about, it is not a permanent thing, because the people who are earning it and sending it are not there properly. They are not regularized their status there. They might be there today and gone tomorrow. And he's got a point. So as for me, as for our work at the mission, we have to find ways of making sure that their stay here is regularized so that that source of income becomes a permanent feature for our economy.
In addition to that, remittances. One of the challenges that government has faced with regards to remittances is the use of remittances. Otherwise, the bulk of money coming in from overseas is direct towards direct consumption. Now, with the Center for Small and Micro Enterprise, the unit is trying very much to encourage the recipients of these remittances to reuse it in investments, the establishment of small industries, so that it can work for the local economy rather than going directly towards consumption.
And consumption is a major problem with the Fiji economy right now. Remember, I told you earlier that export is falling, import is rising on account of high fuel prices and increasing consumption. Some of it is stimulated by remittances. Because in Fiji, the more you consume, the more you import, because we import a lot of things. So we have this situation where import going up, export going down. You've got this widening gap that needs to be funded by not only remittances, but also by tourism inflow, investment inflow. And when that is not adequate, it draws down our foreign reserve. So right now, a lot of pressure on our foreign reserve because of this phenomenon. Dropping import, dropping export, increasing export. And that's why we really are grateful for the level of remittances that we receive.
Just a quick question. This for the students here. I know a lot of times we've heard that, as far as I'm concerned, like me and other students, we come here, we study, and then we go back to Fiji. A lot of times people encourage us. They say, you guys can go back and make a difference. You guys can do a lot of things. Maybe if you can just elaborate on that, or looking at the economy now, and just to see how can we make a difference? How can we, as students here? Because a lot of times being here, we come and we get a degree and stuff. It's kind of vague as far as when we go back. How, just your opinion. How can we make a difference as far as going back students here and stuff? Just to encourage us and stuff like that.
Sure. And I want to say this, that'll be really good when you finish, you come back home, because we need your skills back at home. I mean, you heard me earlier say about the loss of skills that we're experiencing because of one reason or another, including political instability that we've experienced in the past. So the skills that you are acquiring will be very handy back at home. I mean, you either work in government, you work in the private sector, and that's how you contribute. And if you are that inclined, if you're entrepreneurial, you can even go into business. I mean, you've got some young people starting on business in Fiji as a result of support from government, especially towards Fijians. They're really doing well. I mean, I was speaking to someone who graduated in an engineering degree, about a young chap who graduated out of UK with an engineering degree, Terence Arecido. He started his company. Now it's really a big company, attracting many good jobs. So a wide range of areas which you can make yourself useful in. Yes, ma'am.
I know that elections are coming up in Fiji. Do you think that Fiji is already anticipating another coup, or should be anticipating? Because we've known that as a result of the 2000 election, there was a coup. And do you think that that Fiji should have learned the lesson and wouldn't be anticipating that coup?
Yeah, difficult to answer to that question, but what I would like to say is that the government that we have in place right now has demonstrated great ability to bring about political stability. When you compare the situation that we face in Fiji today compared to what was 2000, great stability. And because of that stability, we've attracted a lot of investment. I spoke earlier about, no, I didn't speak earlier about, there is a building boom in Fiji right now. It's being supported by the expansion in hotel developments. Like I mentioned, there was about at least 7 hotels in the making. So these people would not have come to Fiji if they did not think that there is political stability in Fiji. So what I'm driving at is that this government has done a good job so far, not only in ensuring political stability, but also pursuing responsible economic policies, which has contributed to the growth in our economy, albeit not as great as we would like to see it. That the probability that they will come back is very good, I should like to think. And it is when the other party comes in that we don't know what problems might arise, right? But the thing is, we now have a transformed army, if you like. What do I mean? We have a commander who is determined to protect democracy at all cost. So unlike before, where we had the army leaning more towards Fijians and trying to see that the aspiration, we now have an army who's playing it down the middle. And so I think that a combination of all those things, I don't think political problems will arise as a result of the polls that will happen in May.
This is a move that has never happened before. Just out of curiosity, what was the intent in terms of the situation, getting people who are abroad to do the voting, and then perhaps also out of curiosity, what kind of a population do you have in the United States with regards to Fiji people living in this country?
Sure. The first part of your question, with respect, is not quite right. This is not the first time we are getting people to register. Maybe the guys that did before didn't come here. That's why you didn't see them. But the last election, they did it, but mainly concentrated in the West Coast. So it's not the first time. But what Mr. Longlam and I try to do is to get as many people as possible who are eligible to vote to register. And we've been able to secure some funding from the elections office. And maybe that's why we can go to more places than previously, because I think they just had to use their own budget and restrictive somewhat. In terms of the number of people we are here, we estimate that, I mentioned this earlier, 10,000 up to 10,000 indigenous Fijians and maybe 20,000 Indo-Fijians. All right? But now, not all of them are eligible to vote. The criteria to vote is you have to be away from Fiji for less than 2 years. And many of the people here are more than 2 years, except for students. Students are exempted from that. If you're away for longer than 2 years, you can still register, provided you intend to return to Fiji after you finish your studies. And you have to tick, there's a box there to say, yeah, I will come back to Fiji when I finish my studies. And if you cannot tick that box, you cannot register. Does that answer your question, sir? Right.
Thank you very much. If those were the impromptu remarks, I'm looking forward to the ambassador's return visit and his formal remarks. The Kennedy Center has a tradition of presenting a plaque to ambassadors as they visit us here and meet with you here in the Kennedy Center. And I'd like to do the honors of presenting this plaque and hope that it will hang on his office in Washington, D.C., and that he can remember with fondness his visit to Utah this time. Thank you very much.
You want to go again? Quick, the smile might fade. Thank you.